11th British driver to win the Formula One championship. But then we are going to start from his early life. As London Norris was born on 13th of November 1999 in Bristol, that is in England. His father, Adam Norris, is a retired pensions manager who co-owned Hargreaves Lansdowne and ranked 610th on the 2022 Sunday's time-rich list with a net worth of 200 million pounds in that very price. His mother, however, who is named Siska Norris, is from the Florida's region of Belgium and gave him the name London, which Norris has stated was not inspired by London Calrissians from Stars War. He has 3 siblings, 2 younger sisters, and of course an older brother, Oliver, who was also involved in 13 on competitive level until 2014. Norris holds both British and Belgian citizenship and speaks a small amount of Flemish Dutch. In his early childhood, Norris tried horse riding, then quit biking and motorcycle riding before moving into dating after his father took him to watch the National British Karting Championship at age 7. Norris was educated at Millfield School in Streath, Somerset. He left school without taking his GCSEs, opting to study physics and mathematics with a full-time personal tutor. He cited Valentino Rossi as an inspiration for his racing career. And that's a very discourse. Kingsley, let's take a look at the early life of this man, London Norris. His father, from the look of things, he was a very wealthy man. Of course, the mother, the brothers and sisters, if you take a look at their family, more like a mix of sportsmen and women and administrators who also, understand what it means to be successful in life. Do you think that the early bring up of London Norris in terms of riding, whether horse, biking, has played influential roles in making him to become who he is today?
Yeah, I think it has. All right. If you take a look at it, while he was very young, of course, just like you mentioned, he came from a very rich family. All right. While he was very young, his parents, of course, actually introduced him to so many sports. You talk about horsing, you talk about biking, and skating as well. These are some of the sports, of course, he actually participated in when, of course, he was very, very young. And looking at the fact that, he was being introduced into some of this sport, that made him, of course, to love, sports. And take a look at the kind of sports he was being introduced to. Horsing, all right, is a motion sports. You talk about biking as well. It's also even skating. It's also a motion sports as well. And today, you can see where all of those, sports he participated in has actually led him, into becoming a Formula One, driver today. So you could say his early bringing, the way, of course, he was actually being nurtured or trained or being exposed by his parents actually probably, might have tilted, him, of course, towards being who he is today, or towards making that decision of taking up Formula One, as a professional assistant. The way sometimes, parents bring up, their children matters a lot. And the upbringing, the environment, children, of course, grow, influences them, at the end of the day. Like London Norris, it was, like I mentioned, being introduced to motion sports, skating, biking, horse, and all of that. And at the end of the day, he actually came to, of course, love that, anything that has to do with motion, movement, and all of that. And that's probably, I think, might have, of course, prepare him, to have actually go down to maybe take Formula One, as a professional at the end of the day. And looking at the fact that, his parents were very rich, so he has whatever it takes, even at that early stage, of course. So maybe going into anything, of course, he wanted. Looking at the fact that his dad, of course, was a very rich man, as at that time. So you take a look at it. I think the man, I would say, had a very, very soft upbringing, where he didn't really suffer much, unlike other, sportsmen and women where we hear, oh, they suffered, they went through this and went through that before they became who they are today. But this one had a very, very soft landing. So you could take a look at the fact that whichever area of endeavor or professional career he wanted to go into, probably the parents would have been in support of it. And today, you could take a look at where he is today. So for me, I think his environment, his parents, and don't forget, he has a dual citizenship, a British citizen, and he's also from Belgium as well. So you could take a look at everything was just there for him to maybe hit whatever target, of course, he wants in life. And today, with all of this, I think might have, of course, tilted his direction or his attention towards, taking Formula One as a career today.
Great one from London Norris, because I can tell you for sure that his background played a very, very huge role in shaping him up, becoming who he is. Of course, starting his career at very early age, starting with biking, horsing, dating. Dating is yet another form of motor driving sport, but then this time around it has to do with the smaller cars, so I think it is no surprise. But then let's take a look at his junior career level, because London Norris started his racing career at the age of 8 when he claimed the pole position at his first national event. In 2013, London Norris competed in FK Junior class, winning the CIK FIA European Championship and the CIK FAI International Super Cup, as well as the WSK Euro Series. The following year, he won the CIK FIA World Championship in KF class with Ricky Flying Motorsport, making him the youngest 13 world champion in that category in 2014. London Norris made his car racing debut in Janita Junior Championship, a sport series to British Touring Car Championship. He finished third in the championship, winning 4 races and claiming the Rookies Cup in that very year. Moving on, London Norris competed full-time in 2018 FIA Formula 2 Championship, racing alongside Sergio Camara at Kalin. The opening race at the Bahrain International Circuit from pole position. However, this would prove to be his only race victory of the season. He scored consistent point and podium finishes to hold the lead of the championship until the 6th round at the Red Bull's ring. When George Russell passed him in the standings, and Norris retired from both races at the 11th round at Sochi Autodrome, ruling him out of the championship contention and dropping him to 3rd place in the standing behind Alex Albon, although he recovered to a 2nd place after the final round in Abu Dhabi. Let's take a look at his Formula One career, because in February 2017, Norris joined McLaren Drivers Development Program. Following the announcement, Zak Brown said that Norris was a fabulous prospect, in quote, who deserved the award. Later that year, London Norris tested for McLaren in a scheduled mid-season test. He set the 2nd fastest lap in the 2nd day of testing at the Hungarian. In 2017, Norris became the official McLaren test and reserve driver for the 2018 season. Norris participated in his first official practice session at the Belgian Grand Prix, recording 26 laps. Norris drove in 6 further practice sessions during that particular year. But moving on to 2020, where he made his maiden podium. In 2020, at the season's opening Australian Grand Prix, London Norris qualified in 4th place, but was elevated to 3rd after a grid penalty for Lewis Hamilton, the highest grid position of his career at the time, and the highest for McLaren since 2016 Australian Grand Prix. Norris set the fastest lap of the race on the final lap to finish at 4.802 seconds behind Lewis Hamilton, allowing London Norris to claim the first podium finish of his career. This made Norris the 3rd youngest podium finisher in Formula One history at that very time. At the Styrian Grand Prix, Norris qualified 6th but was given a 3-place grid penalty for overtaking under fellow flags during practice session. He overtook 3 cars in the final 2 laps of the race to finish 5th in what he described as one of the best race of his career. So Kingsley, let's take a look at when he made his professional debut in the Formula One 2017. Ever since then, we've had some names that were on the same, podium and grid with him, the likes of Lewis Hamilton. These are some of the top names in the world of Formula One. But then, this man, whenever he comes up, there is something special about him. It is either he finishes in 1st, 2nd, or 3rd position. But then, at that very young age, one thing was certain about him, that there is an exceptional skills in him.
Yeah, definitely. The man has that potential. When you take a look at him, you tend to see a driver, of course, in him, not just an ordinary driver, but an instinct of a professional driver. Of course, you take a look at the way he does it. He actually put up exceptional ability. You could see that he started very, very early. All right. So looking at the fact that he started very early, of course, in his career, that also gave him that opportunity to be able to learn, very fast, and of course get adapted to the sport. So heading down, of course, to McLaren in 2017, that was not, of course, a very huge tax for him, anymore. And that's why, of course, in this part of the world, we always encourage parents, when your child is growing up, always look out for means of, look out for what you think this child could become. Or like, take a look at the threats. What are the character or behavior of this child? When you see all some of these things, it could be that the child loves football, it could be that maybe the child loves reading and all that. You take a look at some of these things and try to make sure you guide the child, based on that particular thing, of course, you've seen. And that's the same thing, of course, we saw in the life of London Norris. Started very early, of course, and heading down to, McLaren at 2017 wasn't a difficult one for him. We saw, even, I think, Zach, the head of McLaren at that time, saw him to be a future prospect. Like, this guy has a little potential, of course, in him. And with that, he was given a role, to play. He was tested on several occasions, and then even tried and most of the kind, of course, to compete with the big guys, as you mentioned, likes of George Russell, Lewis Hamilton, of course, and the rest of them. Despite the fact that, yes, he didn't really have a very impressive, performance, or maybe having a podium finish even at that time, but there was prospect. There was a lot of potential, of course, in him, and that's why he was even given, of course, the opportunity to still continue as a rookie driver down there, of course, at McLaren, even before gaining momentum. So for me, what I noticed even before he even signed his professional career down there at McLaren was the fact that starting early really, really gave him, of course, an edge. And that's why, of course, he has actually grown and, of course, improved, of course, in his game, down to this level. I think we take a look at London Norris, more to expect from the man, more to see, from the man, from what, of course, we've seen so far.
More to see from this man, talking about London Norris, who won his first Drivers' Championship just a few days ago, then also propelling McLaren to win their first Constructors and Drivers' Championship since 2008. Massive one, but then we are talking about his progression right from the teenage where he became a rookie driver, then competing against some of the big teams, big names, likes of Lewis Hamilton. But then, one thing was spectacular about him, that he has these exceptional skills that always put him ahead of others. But then, let's move to 2021, where he had his maiden pole position because London Norris remained at McLaren for the 2021 season, partnering the likes of Daniel Ricciardo, has since left the team for Ferrari. Norris qualified 7th for the season's opening Bahrain Grand Prix and finished the race 4th. At the following race, the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix, a qualifying time that would have placed him 3rd on the grid, was deleted for exceeding track limits, and he started the race 7th. London Norris had a run in 2nd place before being overtaken by Lewis Hamilton with 3 laps remaining. He finished 3rd to claim his 2nd Formula One podium finish. Moving on, following another podium finish in 2022, he took 7th across his 2023 campaign. Meanwhile, in 2024, London Norris achieved his maiden win in the Miami Grand Prix. So he continues from 2017, where he was still learning under the tutelage of the junior team and other competitors. There was this prospect, but then from 2020 to 2021, he began to gain that maturity, and we saw him begin to show that class that indeed I can compete with some of the big boys out there, finishing 2nd and 3rd, even while he was in the same grid with some of these top names. These potentials that McLaren saw in him, was that the reason why they had to retain him for a long period? Because he signed a very long-term contract from that 2017.
For you to make a podium finish, in 2020, 2021, you talk about 2023, all right, it's actually a very huge one for you as a driver. Why did I say so? Because in 2020, 2021, 2022, let's say 2023, those seasons were highly dominated by Lewis Hamilton.
True.
Max Verstappen was still coming up. I think that it was 2022. Max Verstappen really broke out. You talk about the likes of Sebastian Vettel, as at that time. All right. So for you to make a podium finish between those times, all right, between those seasons, it means you were really a very good driver, because Lewis Hamilton was the talk of the town at that time. There is no race that Hamilton will not have a podium finish. All right, not until 2022, when Max Verstappen, of course, took over and started dominating, Formula One. So for you to make your podium finish, possibly, let me say, as a rookie driver at that time, I tell you, it is something very, very, exceptional. And just like you mentioned, I think that could also be one of the reasons why McLaren, of course, has to retain him, maybe give him, a long-term contract. So you could see that this was, McLaren saw the future. Yes, they saw the future in the man that this man is going to be very, very exceptional. For them to have signed him in 2017 and he's still there with them up to this moment, I think as at that time, McLaren, they didn't need an already made driver.
Yes.
They wanted someone, of course, they could groom. So since 2017, the man has been training, improving on his game, down to this very moment. And talking about that time between 2020, 2021, 2022, I tell you, it was a difficult moment that if you're not exceptional, then you can't compete with Mercedes when Lewis Hamilton, of course, was there. But this man was still making a podium finish, even in that, highly competitive, time, in Formula One. That's to tell you that the man has what it takes, of course, to be, a world champion. And today, of course, he is. That's to tell you the power of consistency, the power of, attention, being focused, at this point in time. That's what, of course, we saw in London Norris. And today, it has really, really yielded fruits, for the man. And we'll continue to see more. So you take a look at that range of time, it was a difficult moment. So for him to have been able to make, podium finishes at that time, it means, of course, it was something he was building. And today, of course, we've really seen the results of all of that.
Today we've seen the result of what London Norris has been cooking right from his teen age, even at a crucial moment where we had the very, very great one talking about Lewis Hamilton dominating the scene 2020, 2021, yet you still see a young London Norris competing, with these big names. And of course, owing to his, potentials and skills, McLaren had to give him a long-time contract. They were so patient, even when one of the drivers left, yet they kept faith with him, as the second driver. And today, that faith that was reposed on London Norris eventually paid off for McLaren. And we can tell you, as it is right now, that London Norris is a name in the lips of so many Formula One followers right there, because of his achievement so far, winning his first, Formula One Drivers' Championship, then also helping McLaren to win the Drivers' Championship, the Constructors' Championship together since 2008, and that is why we are celebrating him, today. But then we are going to take a quick break. When we are back, because we unfold and unravel more about the British driver, talking about London Norris. Don't go anywhere. All right, you're welcome back from that short break. You are still on to Atlantic Television Network sport personality. My name is Emmanuel Michael, and Kingsley Emmanuel is still here, and together we are bringing you the life and career of London Norris, who won this year's Formula One championship to win his first Formula One title since he made his professional debut. But we are still trying to take a look at how resilient, how dogged he was. Kingsley, just like we were discussing before we went on break, in 2019, 19, nobody even knew him then because he was still yet a rookie. He has not been, given that nod for fierce professional Formula One debut. But in 2020, we saw him even when some of the big names were still there, dominating, the likes of Sebastian Vettel, Lewis Hamilton, Vettel Bota of Mercedes, then Carlos Sainz, name them. Yet in 2020, we finished ninth. Yes, on the table in that season. 2021 as well, we saw him, yes, when Max Verstappen began his dominance, then followed by Lewis Hamilton, Vettel Bota, Elias Carlos Sainz, Danielo Ricciardo, to name. Yet he finished sixth in that 2021 as well. But then he never gave up, despite the arrays of names and big names that was with him, not giving him the space. But yet he maintained consistency. 2022, the same issues. He was still there. He couldn't come close to the podium finish. 2023, he began to try his best. 2024 seems to be where he actually got the mastery. So the question is, despite the challenge of facing some of these top names at your early stage, these are names that have been very consistent, but yet you fail to give up. Do you think that his never say die attitude is what has made him to be crowned a champion for this year?
Yeah, I think it was the spirit of resilience that we saw in him, and that's what, of course, probably has prepared him, to where he is today. The never give up spirit, of course, that actually pushed him to this stage of the competition. Maybe some persons might have think of the fact that, oh, I can't do it. Take a look at the fact that Lewis Hamilton is always dominating.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't do it. Valtteri Bottas is there, Sebastian Vettel, Max Verstappen coming up as well. When is it going to be my turn? When will I be the best driver? When will I be the number one driver? To say. So many persons might have given up, but you still see the resilience, from the man London Norris. He kept on pushing, gradually following up, of course, this driver. Nobody really talked about London Norris in those years. Nobody really talked about him, but he kept on believing and knowing that, of course, one day it's going to be, of course, his turn, and definitely it has happened, this season, and that's the thing. And as well, we can also take away, McLaren from his success. All right, they kept on improving.
True.
All right, kept on improving on their car, making sure that, of course, they get the best engine that will help them, of course, compete. And finally, it came 2025. Their McLaren car was one of the best, when you talk about, cars in Formula One this season. I think that also inspired London Norris, to, of course, put up that fight to say, whichever way it comes, I must try to be at the top. And of course, he actually went down with that spirit, and this time around he came top ahead of the big names like Lewis Hamilton as well. You could talk about the likes of Max Verstappen, who has been dominating aggressively, to say. So a spirit of resilience, and it's a very huge lesson in life. No matter how life look like, no matter how tough, no matter how you see people maybe are gone ahead of you, keep pushing. In as much as you know that you're making the right step, all right? It's just a matter of time. And that's what we saw in the life of London Norris, and today he is the number one, driver in Formula One.
Spirit of resilience, the never say die attitude was, it is what kept London Norris going despite facing some of the top guns in the world of Formula One. But he kept believing, he kept focusing, kept doing the right thing, and time, actually have showed that indeed the hard work and patient resilience that he's putting in has yielded to the success. Meanwhile, let me also let you know that a tearful London Norris at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix won his first Formula One Drivers' Championship by securing the third place he needed in the season's ending Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Meanwhile, the 26-year-old took the title by 2 points from Red Bull's Max Verstappen, who won the race to take his 8th victory of the year, one more than the Briton and his McLaren teammate Oscar Piastri. McLaren were always in control of a race packed with tension, even though Verstappen was on a course for victory from the first lap because Piastri finished second and was in position to help London Norris if needed. Norris became the 11th British Formula One driver at the end of the 7th season in Formula One, a year that he started slowly, but which he came on strong in the second half of the year. More so, it is McLaren's first drivers and constructors title, double since 2008. Record-breaking one, the way the victory came. Yeah, you saw how he started the season, very slow, all right? But then, at the second half of the season, he seems to pick up, his rhythm, and he never looked back until eventually he won the Drivers' Championship for the first time in his career. Of course, sharing that tears of joy, he spoke a lot about how the encouragement he got from his family and all of that. But then, from the one that he set his eyes set on taking Formula One as his professional career, do you think that he ever dreamed of one day being the #1 driver?
Possibly, he might have dreamt of becoming the #1 driver, one day. And for him to have taken up Formula One as a career, that means, first of all, you talk about the love and passion, of course, he has for the sport. And he knows what's at stake, heading down, of course, to Formula One. For him to have been consistent, for him to have been patient, been resilient, since 2017 when he signed for McLaren, up to this moment where he won the Drivers' Championship. Of course, that the man, has vision, all right? He has a vision, and that's why, of course, he was able to maintain himself. When you have vision of a particular thing, you know that this thing, you definitely get it, and it will help you to walk, it will guide you to walk towards getting that thing. And that's what, of course, we saw, from the man, London Norris, as he stand. And if you take a look at this season, it even look as if it's going to come top, at the end of the day, because the way the season started, everyone was like, oh, what's the name again? Red Bull. Red Bull will be there. They are beefing up their squad. It is going to be another Max Verstappen season. And it was just a period of time when Lewis Hamilton left Mercedes to Ferrari. And everyone was like, oh, this is going to be the time Lewis Hamilton, of course, will bounce back and compete very well with Max Verstappen. But it was never the season of Red Bull or Max Verstappen, never the season of Ferrari or Lewis Hamilton. It was a season for London Norris that nobody, of course, thought was going to happen. It won 2 for McLaren, winning the Drivers' Championship and as well the Constructors' Championship, to say at this point in time. So it was never something that we imagined was going to come. While the likes of Red Bull were trying to beef up their car, Ferrari and the rest of them, nobody knew what McLaren were doing behind the scene. All of a sudden, they just, stormed the stage. And today we're talking about them winning the Constructors' Championship ahead of Red Bull and the likes of, Mercedes. Mercedes didn't even come close, to say at this point in time. And their driver, London Norris, of course, who had been putting up a very impressive performance, came top and very close with their second driver, Oscar Piastri, as well. So you could see that it was a planned thing. They planned it very well. In that we're going to step up gradually, and nobody will know when we take up this stage. And that was what happened, of course, this season. So while we give credit much, of course, to London Norris, I think we should also give credit to McLaren for, of course, having that vision and planning towards this particular year, talking about 2025.
Meanwhile, London Norris has achieved 11 race win, 16 pole position, 18 fastest laps, and 44 podiums in Formula One. Norris is contracted to remain at McLaren until at least the end of 2027. Let's move on and talk about his net worth, because according to various sources, London Norris' net worth is estimated to be around $30 to $70 million in 2025, with some sources citing $35 million or $50 to $70 million in his income as we speak. Most of this financial income comes via salary, because London Norris earns a base salary of $20 to $25 million per year from McLaren, with potential bonuses adding millions more. I talk about endorsement deal, because he has lucrative deals with top brand across the globe. He also owns businesses as well, because some ventures that Norris is a owner, because London Norris co-founded Quadrant, a content and gaming company, and LN Racing Cards, which drives revenue through sales events and brand licensing, with his growing popularity and successful performances in the world of Formula One. Norris' net worth is expected to, of course, increase as the year go by. First off, you take a look at the net worth of London Norris, a driver, a Formula One driver. Not too many people are aware that, Formula One has this kind of big money. Let's translate this to our society, Kingsley. If parents hear this amount of money, that just for you driving the wheel, you earn this kind of big money back, is it not something worth parents encouraging their kids or their words to start taking as profession? Or is it strange in this part of the climate?
Definitely strange, and it's not going to be easy, for parents to start sponsoring their kids right here. Let's use Nigeria, of course, to say to engage in Formula One. First of all, the sport is not being practiced here in Nigeria. All right, it's not being practiced here in Nigeria. So, if you want your child to be a Formula One driver, then you have to take this child outside the country. And the child will have to spend a lot of time, learning, even before even being signed by any of the constructor, as it stands. So it's a huge amount of money. It's a huge amount of money to say. But talking about, Formula One here in Nigeria, it's really going to be difficult. How many parents have you seen or heard to say, I want my child to be a Formula One driver? Here in Nigeria, it's very difficult for you to hear that, because one, do they really understand what Formula One racing is? They don't understand the sport first. Do people really pay much attention about Formula One? They don't here in Nigeria, but this is a sport that, of course, amounts a lot of money, at the end of the day. So it's somehow difficult for, kids down here in Nigeria to find interest in pursuing a career, in Formula One at this point. But this is a sport that has a lot and a lot of money. Imagine London Norris, who is, of course, in his early 20s, earning up to $20 to $30 million a year. That's a huge amount of money, of course, you will say. And he's also a businessman. I believe the money he has generated or accrued from the sports actually gave him that opportunity to invest, at the end of the day. So he has a lot of money, but I don't think kids here in Nigeria, or let's say Africa, will have that much opportunity. Let me just use Nigeria. Let me leave Africa. Will have that much opportunity to want to venture into Formula One. Getting into it is not really that easy. You have to pass through some rigorous process before you come top. Take a look at even the man, London Norris, that even came from a wealthy family. He has to start from the scratch.
True.
Not even being recognized at some point was as a rookie driver, tested. We have saw testing upon testing before the board, of course, came up with some level of confidence on him. So you could see that it demands a lot of work, a lot of energy, a lot of money before you can, of course, get to the top when it has to do with Formula One as a profession.
It demands a lot for sacrifices for you to become a professional Formula One driver, but then you can see that it's huge money that comes with it as well, as the net worth of London Norris is actually massive. We can tell you that for sure. You talk about a parent right here in Africa, to be precise, encouraging their kids and wards to take that as a professional career. I think maybe many years we need to wait before we see this happening. Talking about Nigeria as a case study, we are talking about Abuja Formula One in future, which I don't think we really even have the track. But then, that is not to say that Formula One is not, money spinning sports. In other climes where they have the necessary infrastructures on ground, I think they are making huge example is London Norris, who has won his first Formula One drivers championship, and also helping McLaren to win the double since 2008. And the reason why we decided to pick him this morning for our sports personality, and I think he truly deserves the praise. Time might not permit us to go through the gamut to talk about other aspects of his life, but we believe that you've enjoyed every bit of the show. We'll do this again next Saturday, 7 to 8 a.m. But for now, I want to leave you right here. But then other programs will come your way as you stick with us right here on Atlantic Television Network. I did a show this morning alongside Kingsley Emmanuel. My name is Emmanuel Michael, the Prime Minister of the Airways, and we are saying have a nice weekend ahead.